It's not just doing comedy, it's being around comedy, it's watching comedy, having that community to disappear into, because you're watching people live their lives in so many different ways. And yeah, everyone's not okay, but how many of us are, you know? At
not
least
me.
Yeah.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Maria Birch-Morunga and I am the host of Colourbox Studio Creative Conversations. Very happy to be here. As a manuhiri, as a visitor on these lands, it's really important for me to acknowledge that the Arts Centre Melbourne sits on a site that has been a gathering place for song, storytelling and community for First Nations people for millennia. On behalf of Colourbox Studio, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands, the Wurundjeri Woi-Wurrung and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to the kaumātua, the elders, past and present. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hi, hello. My name is Maria, and I think before we get right into it, I should probably tell you a little bit about myself. I am from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and really happy to call Ngā my home now for the last almost a decade, 9 years I've lived here. I am a podcaster, a visual artist, a facilitator. I do a whole bunch of random things here and there. And as an artist, I've had the privilege of being interviewed by Colourbox Studio in their online artist series. And now I've got the mic. I've got the power. And I'm going to be interviewing some fantastic artists. Now, a little bit about Colourbox Studio. Amie Batalibasi is the founder of Colourbox Studio, and the aim of it is to amplify voices of diverse creatives, filmmakers, storytellers, and that is exactly what we're here to do tonight. Sashi Perera, come to the stage. Everybody give it up. Woo-hoo! Elegant. You nailed that.
Thanks, I was really worried.
Sashi Perera is a Sri Lankan Australian comedian, writer and recovering lawyer. I say this as if I haven't read it before. She was nominated for Best Newcomer at the 2023 Melbourne International Comedy Festival and featured as one to watch on the 2021 UK Funny Woman Awards. Her second solo show, Browndaries, is touring Australia and the UK this year. I've seen it. It's amazing. Sashi, hello. How are you?
Hi, thanks so much for coming to the show. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Okay, you call yourself a recovering lawyer. How did you get into comedy?
I entered an open mic competition in 2018 and everything has just kept going from there. I didn't know that this was a career option. I didn't know that people paid you to watch you say stuff. It's been a really wild ride for the last 5 years.
Were you just like, yes, I'm going to do this comedy competition, or had you done some little open mics before, or?
No, so I'd moved to Melbourne and I love this city. I grew up in Perth and then I was overseas working as a refugee lawyer for some years, came back here to do my master's, and I just found it the most creative city. I feel like everyone has a day life and they do something else at night. I remember meeting a lady who was an accountant by the day and she was a welder at night, and I was like, what do you mean, horseshoes? And she was like, no, rings. What's wrong with you? I'd never thought of a welder. I hadn't thought of a welder in a really long time. But I think entering Melbourne's general circle, I was told about this comedy competition called Raw Comedy. It's open to anyone. All you have to do is write 5 minutes of material. And I think at the time I was single. I was living in a 7-person share house. All my friends were married and I didn't have much going on. I think I'd been dumped for the second time ever text. So I was just over it. And I was like, all right, let's go on stage and do something else.
That is so interesting. A 7-person share house.
I loved it.
I bring a lot of material.
I'm so needy. I'm the neediest human in the world. I loved living with 6 other people. That was my dream.
There's always someone around to have a couple with.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. You can have teas. Everyone comes back from a night out and you're all hanging out in the kitchen, and then you move in with your partner and there's nothing. Nothing.
It is just them.
Just you all the time. Again? Cool. No, I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
Can you tell us a little bit about your life before comedy? Did you have a nighttime thing that you did, welding or jewellery making?
No, not at all. So I worked as a refugee lawyer in Perth, and then I moved overseas. I worked in the Philippines, in Turkey, Thailand, Egypt, Tanzania, in different projects around the world, which was really fun, but also it's a super transient lifestyle, I would say. You constantly were making new friends, meeting new people, finishing the project, then moving on. And after living like that for a while, I was like, I kind of just need some stability. And so came to Melbourne to do my master's with the idea that I would leave after I finished it in a year, and then it took me 3 years to complete, and here I still am. So, and I'm not a lawyer anymore, so all of the things, yeah.
I love that. I say yay so enthusiastically because my day job is not welding, it is working with lawyers.
Oh, so sorry for you.
Yeah. I have to teach them things, so that's really hard. So I love that for you that you're free of that now.
Ish. Yeah.
Yeah, your day job is it in that vicinity?
Yeah, so I work for the public service in the day for the Treasury, but as a regulator, which is kind of a lot more relaxed than working as a refugee lawyer. And I actually just resigned yesterday. So, yeah, mostly because I can't keep doing the double. I feel like it started as 90% day job, 10% night job, and that has gone to 50-50. And then after Comedy Festival and with this tour, it's kind of getting more and more, and kind of I've had to make a choice, and I'm like, I guess it's this.
It's going to be this one.
Yeah.
That's scary because I feel like I'm straddling a similar thing, obviously not as far along as you are, but I'm like, how far can I push my leave? How far can I say, sorry, I can't do that today because I've got somewhere to be. It's this.
Yeah. I've got somewhere way more fun to be. I'm sorry.
And I want to be doing that.
Yeah.
It feels kind of bananas that this is your second show because I feel like you have such a presence on stage and like you bring a level of comfort to when you deliver comedy. Can you tell us a little bit about Boundaries, your show that you're currently doing?
Yeah, it's sort of because it came around in terms of, so my partner, my husband, he is a white Australian man, and I grew up in between the brown Sri Lankan community and the white Australian community. I've lived here for almost 20 years now, and it's kind of that constant struggle of, am I becoming too white? Am I not brown enough? Why does it matter? So I kind of go through that in the show. I can't believe you came. That's so nice. Thank you. I forget that there are so many people in the audience. So whenever people are like, I was at your show, I'm like, oh, wow, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really what the show's about. But I think I'm a bit confusing as a stand-up comedian because I play songs and I sing, and there are certain rules to stand-up comedy, and anything additional is a gimmick. And if you do a gimmick, then that means you're a alternative comedian or you're trained in that area, and I'm not trained. I'm a lawyer. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's just kind of been a fun thing to discover that it doesn't matter. You can do what you want is your show.
You can do what you want.
You do what you want.
Yes. Yeah. Singing. What are we going to sing today for you guys? No,
Here's something I prepared earlier. Yeah.
We didn't just meet tonight. We've actually been prepping for this. Look, I have an idea, and you've kind of given an idea as well as to what the inspiration behind your comedy is. But for those who haven't seen you before, what other things inspire you to giggle and tell jokes?
I started with observational comedy because I didn't want to talk about being a woman on stage, and I didn't want to talk about being brown on stage. I was like, I want to talk about things that everyone can relate to. So I started talking about like doors and self-serve checkouts and birds. I was like, everyone has seen a bird. They're like, birds. And I think I started just sneaking in little jokes about what it felt like to be brown or what it felt like to worry that you might be becoming too white. And those just really started resonating. I feel like that is the content that really resonated with my audience and grew my audience, which I was very surprised about. I thought, that's too niche, which is bananas now that I think about that, because there are so many people who could resonate to being stuck in between two worlds. We're all struggling with some kind of binary, being too much or too little of anything. So so initially it was I was very much like, I'm an observational comic. I will talk about everyday things. And apparently I didn't include being a woman in an everyday. So I think, so that was a really nice discovery. It's like the more that you put of yourself into your comedy, the more it's going to resonate with people, with your audience.
I'm wondering how you find the balance between giving too much of yourself or being universal in one way, but also being personal and not giving away things that are private and that perhaps you don't want to share yet. Like, how do you find the balance between those two things when you're cracking gags and talking about identity in them?
I think that's a really great question. I do some workshops, comedy workshops sometimes, and I say that there are different things work for different people. Sometimes you can see people processing what's going on in their everyday life on stage in real time, and that works for them. But for me, I'm talking about things I talked about. So my first show, Endings, was about how I cancelled a wedding 2 months before we were supposed to have the wedding, but that was 10 years ago. So that was things that I've processed, things that I've dealt with, and I know that everything's okay now. Me and my ex-fiance, we're great now. But without knowing that, I wouldn't be able to talk about that. I wouldn't be able to write jokes that are funny about that, where people are like, haha, but are you okay? Like, we've all seen those types of shows where you don't know if it's safe to laugh because you don't know if they're okay yet. And this particular period in my life, we're going through IVF. We've had a number of miscarriages, and that's a very personal, difficult thing. And I lost my dad. And kind of dealing with all of that, I will make fun of it in 10 years' time. But right now, I really liked that I could go through all this horrible stuff in the day, but then get on stage and crack jokes about something completely unrelated. I think that kept me safe. And it also gave me a space to disappear into at night that completely disconnected from whatever was going on during the day.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's really vulnerable. That kind of leads into my next question as to how do you find being funny through hard times? It's a solace for you.
For me, I think it's very much a solace. So when everything was going on, we've had a number of miscarriages now. We're up to our fourth. And after the first three, I actually had a gig that evening. And after the first one, my husband was like, you have to cancel it. And I was like, you don't understand, having this to disappear into is my solace. And I don't think that works for everyone. And I think it's really important to know what part of your art brings you joy and what part you need to take a break from. I don't think you need to be afraid of that. Like, if you need to cancel something, cancel it. However, if you feel, you should go. And he came to that gig and he saw me get on stage, have a really great time, come home and then be like, okay, it's okay to fall apart now. And I think even because for me, it's not just doing comedy, it's being around comedy, it's watching comedy, having that community to disappear into, because you're watching people live their lives in so many different ways. And everyone's not okay, but how many of us are, at
not
least
me.
Not most of the arts or the world. So, but we're all getting through it, cracking jokes with each other.
Yeah. Do you process those types of things in other ways? Because I know that you have a Substack newsletter.
Yeah. I have a Substack. I think my writing, the whole point of starting that up was to write more in real time. So talk about what's going on in the day there. And that's been a really nice outlet. I like writing. I like not having to crack jokes, because that's the main problem with talking about what's going on in real time. You have to feel safe about something and be okay to joke about something to get that humour across. And I don't know how this story is going to pan out yet. So, but writing about it, I can do that.
Yeah. And you don't have to be like, here's the punchline.
Anyway, bah.
How does your writing practice flow into you writing jokes?
Sometimes. I think I really like the Substack blog because the pressure to write a joke is just off. I more have a set of notes on my phone where if I think about something funny, it's all in there. So I just have this ever-increasing list of notes that are just, sometimes it's really annoying because you'll feel really inspired at a really random time and then wake up to a note that just says like olive, which isn't helpful. But Generally,
mean?
yeah. What part of the olive? Like the green ones? Why?
Is it the pit?
Yeah.
Oh my God. The notes app is like, my notes app is like a graveyard.
Yeah.
It's just like full. I opened it the other day and there's like this one that just says death admin. For who? For me? What? I don't know why. Yeah, the no context notes app. Like, how do you write jokes? I'm like, tell me your secrets.
Yeah, well, so in the workshops that I run sometimes, I love doing them because I honestly think everyone is funny. There's no one way to write a joke. There's no one way to deliver comedy. Like, we've all seen so many different types of comedians. Like, what is comedy is so different to everyone. So I think it's more finding your way that you write and then being able to write that joke. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I thought you were like,
no, what?
Wrong. Give me the formula.
I need the secret, please.
No, so for me, I'll think of something funny. I'll sit on it for a really long time and then I'll speak it out loud at some point. But that joke is going to evolve more and more and more. And annoyingly, the punchline will come in the shower or when you're watching someone else. Like, you don't steal their punchline, but I think, your brain is so smart. I just don't think that any of us really understand fully how our brains work. And I think it's constantly processing stuff. So sometimes you just have to give it the time to get to that punchline.
So the main takeaway from tonight's event is go and have a shower.
Shower all the time, as much as you can.
More than once a day. Do it.
Yeah. Climate crisis. What? Art. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so funny. You are a comedian, aren't you? I knew this was going to be a problem interviewing a comedian. Okay. I have a question for you because I first found out who you were probably alongside a lot of other people. I think one of the first things I seen from you was a reel on Instagram, the Browndaries reel, where you talked about the difference between perhaps white people's boundaries and then brown people's boundaries, hence Browndaries. How bizarre is it to have gone viral?
Totally bizarre. Also really annoying because my husband, Browndaries was a term that I had inside another joke and he was like, wait, what's that? What do you mean Browndaries? Did you coin that? And I was like, yeah, but it's just a thing. He's like, that is a whole different joke. So, yeah, I know.
And you're like, you were right.
Why are you so clever? It was very annoying. But also, you never know what's going to go viral and what's not. It's just really odd science. But I loved that people were resonating with it. I've had counsellors now, I don't know if this is allowed, but they're like, we've started using that term. And I'm like, great. Awesome.
Credit me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it just feels really, really lovely when you hit on something where you're like, isn't this funny? And a whole bunch of people are like, yeah, I can identify with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just gets taken and it's on Facebook and your mum's liking it. It's gone into its own little beast. Do you feel nervous now putting out things to such a huge audience, or are you just like, meh?
I was telling Gemma earlier that I feel like I'm just one joke away from getting cancelled. Like, this just feels like the most random, basically it took me 5 years to get to 1,000 followers and I felt legit. I was like, oh, I am a comedian now.
Yes.
And then I started posting reels mostly after my dad passed away and I just wanted to go full pelt at my first show, and 3 months before the show I started posting reels regularly just so I'm like, hey, anyone outside my 1,000 followers, if you find this interesting, please come. And then it went from 1,000 followers to 100,000 followers in 2 months. Which is wild. Yeah. So I just feel like it's been this completely random luck that I'm not going to challenge and I'm not going to question, but I also have no doubt will overnight be like, The end. Yeah.
Could be taken away at any moment.
And I'm like, whatever, I did my 2 shows. That's all I wanted anyway.
And I got to quit my job for a small period of time. Maybe.
Yeah, for a very small period of time. Please take me back, Treasury. Thank you so much.
So everybody go to Sashi's shows.
Yeah. No, but I still, it's still me on the account, and I'm getting, because I post about the shows, but I also post about miscarriages and IVF and all this other death admin stuff. Like, I'm getting... there's a lot. We make it so difficult for people to die. It's bananas. And so I really try to respond to the DMs that I get, because they're so personal and people are bothering to share their story with you. And I want to give that the time and the space. And and my husband's like, you can't maintain it to this level, and I'm like, well, watch me die trying. Yeah,
I'm actually going to do it because the Browndaries went viral.
Yeah.
You can't be right about too many things.
Yeah, exactly. But there's just, and no one prepares you for when you do go viral. Like, I didn't have a manager then. Like, so to go from like a person with 1,000 followers to something that's been watched 9 million times is just like, what are those statistics even? That's not real. No one calls you from TikTok and they're like, congratulations,
Here's a hat.
Yeah, here's a hat, and here are some dot points on what to do and not to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Have you had a bunch of trolls?
So many trolls. But what I've been doing is, I don't know if you've seen it on my account, but I found that because you're reading it, and even if you delete it, you've still already seen the garbage that's out there, which is very difficult. But what I started doing was replying to it and then screenshotting the response and then sharing it with my followers. And I found that to kind of dilute the venom of it, because people say that it's like bots on there. It's not real people. But sometimes, like every once in a while, this would happen, very rarely, but I would respond and be like, hey, something nice, and then they'd like DM me being like, oh, sorry, I've removed my comment. I watched some of your other videos. They were quite funny, actually. And you're like, okay, come on. Why are we being so mean to each other?
Touching hearts and minds.
Oh, well, and idiots. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. One of the things that I noticed about your show is that you do a bit of audience participation. That's very brave. That's actually very brave.
I've gotten better with it, because I was always very scared to talk to the audience. But I started watching at other shows, and I realized that when the audience feels part of what's going on, it can actually lead to the biggest laughs. It also stops the show from feeling like a very one-way performance, because it's the kind of only bits in your show where there's space for something else to happen. And it's made it really exciting. And because I got knee surgery some months ago, and I've been performing without shoes on, that's been so grounding. I've
literally
really
grounding.
loved that. Yeah, literally grounding. And I felt like a superhero the first night. I was like, oh, what is this? Is this what it feels like to be in your body on stage? Yeah, it was.
Should we kick our shoes off now?
Honestly, I felt like it was a real game changer. I think I might start doing it even when I don't have the knee excuse.
Just pretend.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be any reason.
It's never recovered. I never got the surgery. Yeah.
It could be your new gimmick.
Yeah, yeah. The barefoot comedian. Yeah.
Do you have a favourite audience interaction?
Yeah, I have one where I ask people in the crowd what animal they would be if they could be one. And that's been like a new one at the show. And my favourite one so far was a lady said, I'd like to be a penguin. And I said, why? And she said, they leave their husbands and children at home. And her husband and child were next to her. It's one of the best answers I've had so far.
That's actually hilarious. I love that you leave the room for like flexibility and variability in your show.
I learned it last year. I've always been quite scared of it because, number one, I don't like crowd participation when I go to shows. So it was sort of like, what's a really gentle question that you can ask people, get people involved, and also balance that with doing the show. It's just, it just leaves a bit of room for excitement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. Brave. Again, very brave. Very, very brave. Question, who did you see this year at Comedy Fest? Who was your fave?
Oh, so many, too many to list. My absolute favourite, though, was Sarah Keyworth. They won Most Outstanding Show. Yeah. I have good taste.
Yeah.
No, I love watching up and coming comedians. I love watching established comedians. Like I just got out and watched everything I could because you get a pass when you're part of the festival.
You get a
So
pass?
you get a pass, and anything that's not sold out, you can go join.
Oh, that's so cool.
Which is a great way to see the festival. Otherwise, you really rack up the dollars.
Yeah, I spent a lot of money on comedy this year. But I mean, worth it though, for the artists.
Worth it.
For the artists.
It's mental health as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to giggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than therapy. It is.
It is, yeah, it is. Yep, I would say that it is. So you run workshops as well. That's a part of your comedy practice too.
Really, not as regularly as I'd like, but I ran a couple last year. I'd love to run them again this year. And yeah, it's so much about comedy as community. So it was really nice introducing a whole bunch of new comedians to each other. And I think they go around and gig now, like it's just kind of constantly being like trying to introduce this new thing that has brought me so much joy to as many people as possible and be like, there are literally no qualifications you need for this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can jump from being a lawyer into being a comedian.
Yeah.
No biggie. Not any of the people that I work with could do that. But
You think that, but honestly,
True.
yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's got a funny bone, right?
Everyone's so funny.
Shall we throw to the audience?
Crowd work. Here we go.
Audience participation. Oh, hands up. Hands up, hands up, hands up.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Tom. I'm just getting used to my own voice.
Fair enough.
So I've heard the phrase a lot of comedians are best when they've come from law, and as a recovering lawyer, is there any truth to that, or does my dad just wish I got a real degree?
I think I've talked about this with, I don't know if you've heard of Tess Birch, but she did a show this year called How Not to Run a Music Festival. And we've had some chats about this because she's also a lawyer that's become a comedian. And I don't know, we've narrowed it down to we really like attention and we have bad mental health. These are the two things that we've narrowed it down to. I honestly don't know. There is so much. I feel like there's a show at the comedy festival every year where it's a lineup of lawyers. But I think what it does help you do is you have to give lots of presentations in law school. Like you have to become comfortable with standing in front of a bunch of people, making your point, getting off stage. So I feel like I called it stage. I called court stage. Oh my God. But yeah. So I think some of the skills that come with, I don't think you have to be a lawyer, but I just think that some of the things that law forces you to do can easily translate across to comedy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Hello, my
Hi.
name is Ruby. My question was, like you said, you just stopped working a day job, but back when you did, how did you balance out the day job, the night job, having a personal life and trying to be creative with like your Substack and stuff like that?
I think it got harder and harder. So when I first started, it was 90% day job and 10%, I'll go down to a gig. Maybe I'll do one open mic every couple of weeks. And then that just started increasing and increasing. And I think the stakes of the gigs that I was doing got higher and higher, where the more you're getting paid or the more time you're doing on stage, the more time you're spending thinking about it. So we would it'd be a constant chat with my husband because I feel like the people closest to you can see the deterioration of your mental and physical health that way better than you can. And it was generally when I was doing more than 2 gigs a week, I would start seeing a decline and I wouldn't see my friends, or I wouldn't exercise properly, or I wouldn't be able to cook, or, like all those things that you need to keep your life nice and stable. Well, that I know that I need to keep my life nice and stable. So we had agreed on like 2 gigs a week, but then sometimes in the lead up to festival, it'd go to 6 gigs a week. But I know it was a lot. But I think it's that recognition that you're in a surge period, and in the surge period, your health is not going to be great. The second that it's over, like this week, now that festival has wrapped up, I need to go back to the gym. I need to be cooking. I need to be doing all these things that now that I've created the space to do it, I have to actually do it. Yeah. So I think a balance, is so hard, especially with any creative practice, right? Because you have the thing that makes you money and you have the thing that makes you happy, and rarely do the two intersect. I have stopped saying yes to absolutely everything. I feel like now I'm in a place with my practice where I don't have to say yes to everything. I can be careful with what I say yes to. I'm not afraid about, if I say no, this opportunity is going to be closed to me forever, because it outweighs what I need in this moment, which is rest. But I think especially when you're young and like your creative practice is just starting, you don't have the safety to say no, because if you feel like if you say no to this thing that's definitely going to overload you, that opportunity is never going to come again. Yeah. Did I answer the question?
Yes, no, you did. Yeah, you
okay,
did.
cool. Yeah.
I was going to ask a follow-up question, so sorry, audience. You have one more question after I ask this. But what do you do to rest? What are you going to do to rest over the next couple of weeks?
I love being on the couch and watching shocking TV. I mean, the worst of the worst that everyone else doesn't watch on Netflix. Like, I am keeping those shows afloat.
What's the most recent one?
Dubai Bling. Oh my gosh.
Can you explain that, please?
It's just like really, really rich people in Dubai that like fight with each other. I'm like, yeah, this is terrible. So bad. And then I'm like, maybe someone will fall in love. They never do. They never do. But basically, I feel like that is what allows me to just completely switch my brain off. And I need to move my body. I've learned this the hard way. Like, I think when you most don't want to move your body is when you most need to move your body. And that really helps me just feel grounded again.
Yeah, and take your shoes off.
Take them off. Yeah.
One last audience question. Do we have any? Yes.
Hi. I wasn't actually going to ask anything. It just occurred to me. But have you been home to your home country to do your comedy? And has it felt nerve-wracking because you're like, I don't know if it's translating?
I think it's definitely a fear that I had for a long time, and it was really exciting this year because I did my first show in Sri Lanka, which is where I was born, and I've performed the biggest gig I've done is to 2,000 people here, and I think I was more nervous in that show in Colombo, just to 50 people, because everyone was Sri Lankan, and I was like, this is the test. Am I funny here? Where my aunt was in the crowd, she was reporting back to the family. Like, it was, the stakes felt so high. And also in Sri Lanka, I've realised like the freedom of speech that we take very much for granted here, where you can make fun of your political figures, you can talk about sex, you can talk about religion. There was a female stand-up comedian who'd gone to jail for like 39 days last year in Sri Lanka, and she's still awaiting her hearing. So my family also really didn't want me to perform. So it was a thing where I was worried I wasn't going to be funny, and I had to take everything related to sex, religion and politics out of the show. Like, yeah, what does that leave? But it was just so much fun. I had the best time. I can't wait to go back and do a whole run of shows. But I think when you're performing, even without changing countries, if you're moving from venue to venue, you always have to think about your content. So it's like what you perform at a yacht club is going to be different to what you perform at a pub, to what's different in a house party. Like, it's always going to change. So I think that taught me a really important lesson about thinking ahead, preparing, looking at the political environment that I'm going to be performing in. So yeah, it was definitely a big fear that I've had, and it was only one show, so probably not the best thing to go by forever. But as a test case, I was flying after that show. I was just so happy because that meant everything to me, that I was funny in the country that I was born in. Yeah.
You got the stamp of approval.
I got from my aunt.
Yeah, what did she say in the group chat to the family?
She was like, she did so well. I got to go on national television there because there was a lady in the audience, and then I got to go on TV and then talk about marriage and talk about, like stuff I should not have been allowed to talk about, definitely. And the whole time, like, I was really like aware that the interview was going to be broadcast like 2 hours before I was supposed to be leaving the country. So I was just desperate desperately trying not to get arrested before I left, which was just an exciting experience. Yeah.
How fast can they act, though? You know.
So the female comedian got arrested at the airport trying to leave to Singapore. Yeah. So it was quickly is the answer.
Oh, yep. So
Yeah.
that 2 hours was the longest 2 hours of your life?
So long, yeah. But the interview came out and it was, I didn't say anything groundbreaking because I was very, very careful with my words. But the whole time I was like, maybe tomorrow's jail. Like, be some cool content creation, won't it? Watch those reels pop off.
They'll go viral. Oh my gosh. I feel like your lawyer training would have come in really handy for that.
Only to know how long I would be in there. It's like, I'm never getting out.
I feel like weirdly proud of you for doing that. Is it weird to feel proud of you for doing that? That's amazing.
Thanks. No, it was really fun, and I really wanted to go do it because I want to be funny. Like I want to do shows in India. I want to, I want to build my audience in the places where people follow me from, and just be like, yeah, let's do this. This is exciting. Yeah.
Okay, where's Boundaries going next, and where can people find you?
Boundaries going to Adelaide and Sydney and Perth, and then it's going to the UK and Amsterdam. So if you know anyone, please send them down because I don't know anyone in most of those places, although Sydney just sold out, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah, wild.
So you actually can't come to the Sydney show.
Yeah, so don't send anyone there. We can't fit them in. But, it's exciting. So we're going all around and I'm hoping to do more shows in Sri Lanka and India next year, which I'm super excited about.
And you get to have some rest as well.
Yeah, build some rest time in that. Well, now that I won't have a day job, I'm just going to be sleeping and watching Dubai Bling. If you have any recommendations for terrible TV shows, send them my way. I promise you I will watch every season that's available of it.
It sounds like you're really deep in the Netflix archives.
So bad. So bad.
Thank you so much, Sashi, for being so vulnerable and silly and hilarious. I feel so lucky to have had this chat with you. Everybody, give Sashi a round of applause.
No, thank you.
So I want to say thank you to Amie Batalibasi and Rose McNeil-Young from Colourbox Studio for letting me hold the mic. This episode was recorded at the Channel with support of the Arts Centre Melbourne's Play program. And thank you guys so much for tonight.